Welcome back, everyone, to the Wedge 52 Gridiron Podcast. I'm your host, Wedge. Today's episode will be the Ravens status heading into the offseason after the 2023 season. Super Bowl 58 has now concluded about a week and a half ago. The Kansas City Chiefs beat the San Francisco 49ers in overtime 25-22, where Patrick Mahomes was named the Super Bowl MVP yet again. In this episode, I will include important dates in the NFL offseason. I will then move into player performances, a quick look at how the Baltimore Ravens performed in this past season, as well as the Baltimore Ravens' current roster status, as well as coaching positional status with those, a couple departures, a couple of hires so far on the coaching staff. And now I'll discuss the initial positional needs for the Baltimore Ravens as we head into this offseason and future 2024 season for the Baltimore Ravens, as well as the current draft picks that the Baltimore Ravens currently hold. Before we jump in too much, please make sure you press that follow button right here on Spotify, as well as on Instagram and Twitter/X at Wedge52Gridiron. Help this page grow, help continue to support the NFL-based and Ravens-based content and podcasts that I'll be providing all offseason. With that being said, let's jump right into the important dates of the offseason. The first one starting off here with the franchise tag window. Players are eligible to receive a franchise tag between February 20th and March 5th. Any free agent is eligible to receive a franchise tag from the team that they played for last season. This deal, however, is a one-year deal that the salary averages the top five based off of the positional need. So, not necessarily a move for every single player just because you want to re-sign that free agent. They will be getting paid, very well positionally. Not every team will exercise their franchise tag, option. The Baltimore Ravens, it's looking like I would project they would be using theirs in this offseason. The two main top candidates for that is going to be Justin Madubuike or Patrick Queen. I would not be surprised if one of these players gets put under a franchise tag for the Baltimore Ravens, potentially for either A, to open up a longer window to get that long-term deal done. They would have that player under contract for the 2024 season, which opens and extends that extension window. Or if they think that they're going to get priced out eventually anyways, to at least keep that player, keep their performance. Both those players performed very well in the 2023 season. To get one more season out of that player at a average of a top five kind of salary. Maybe they're thinking after one more season like that, they'll be a top three kind of salaried kind of guy, and they're kind of forecasting they maybe don't want to pay that much for this player. Either way, Justin Madubuike, Patrick Queen, both the top candidates to receive the franchise tag from the Baltimore Ravens. There's two types of franchise tags. Exclusive means they are a Raven. No one else can talk to them. They cannot, play for another team in the 2024 season. They have to play for the Baltimore Ravens. If they decide to opt out of that, I believe, they are unable to play for another franchise in 2024. So it really only hurts the player in that situation, as well as the non-exclusive tag, which this allows other teams. This allows the player to talk to other teams around the league and, potentially even receive offers from them. If another team does offer a non-exclusive franchise tagged player a contract, whichever team, so in this case, the Baltimore Ravens, they have 5 days to match the offer. If they decide to match the offer, they will be a Baltimore Raven under that contract, whatever that duration and salary is. And if they do not match that offer, they will go to the offering team and play for them. So, we did see that last offseason with Lamar Jackson. They placed a non-exclusive tag on him and ended up working out for the Baltimore Ravens last offseason, and obviously signing Lamar Jackson to the very large contract extension that, so far has turned out well. One game short of our highest aspirations, but Lamar Jackson was also one vote short of being the first ever two-time unanimous MVP. So definitely a win for both Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens in terms of that contract after year one. The next important date for this upcoming offseason is going to be the free agency period. The legal tampering period begins March 11th at 12 p.m. Eastern and goes through March 13th at 4 p.m. Eastern. This means free agents, unrestricted free agents, are allowed to start talking to other teams. They can agree in principle to other deals. They can have meetings with other teams, but however, they are not allowed to officially sign on the dotted line. That is not legal until March 13th at 4 p.m. Eastern, when free agency officially opens and players can sign contracts for the upcoming 2024 season. Free agents are then allowed to sign at any point after March 13th at 4 p.m. Eastern time to any team of their liking. We see what the Baltimore Ravens will be doing in terms of free agency this season. They have a lot of players hitting the free agency market that I'll talk about in a couple of minutes, as well as we'll probably be looking to acquire some free agents as well. And then after that, the NFL draft is April 25th through 27th this season. This offseason, it will be in Detroit, starting with the first round on April 25th. The NFL preseason starts in August. That's going to be on August 8th. And then the NFL regular season opener is September 5th. We are without NFL football until September 5th. It's going to be a long offseason. Hopefully it's, beneficial to the Baltimore Ravens and your team that you root for. But September 5th is the target. That is when we get football back. So those are the important dates of this upcoming offseason. Now looking just quickly at 2023 Ravens performances. In terms of quarterback play, Lamar Jackson, most valuable player, his second one of his career so far. Only 3 active players have an MVP. That would be Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, and Patrick Mahomes. So definitely elite company for them. They all have multiples. Don't really need to say anything else about Lamar Jackson and the quarterback play from 2023. He was spectacular. Moving into the rushing attack, Lamar Jackson did have 821 rushing yards and 5 rushing touchdowns. Gus Edwards had 810 rushing yards and 13 touchdowns. Justice Hill, 387 yards and 3 touchdowns. Keaton Mitchell, 396 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then on the receiving side of things, Zay Flowers, 858 yards, 5 touchdowns. Mark Andrews, 544 yards, 6 touchdowns. Nelson Aguilar, 381 yards and 4 touchdowns, who we did already sign to a contract extension. The day before his contract expired, we signed him to a 1-year, $3.5 million deal. I am in support of this signing. Nelson Aguilar played very well for us, had trustworthy hands, and made catches and made plays at times of need. I think he has good veteran presence. Definitely not a number 1 type of wide receiver. Probably not, ideally, at least not a number 2 wide receiver. Definitely a guy I think is a good sign at $3.5 million. And then Odell Beckham, 565 yards, 3 touchdowns. Rashad Bateman, 367 yards and a touchdown. And Isaiah Likely, 411 yards and 5 touchdowns. On the defensive side of the ball, looking at tackles, Roquan Smith, 158. Patrick Reed, 133. Kyle Hamilton, 81. Brandon Stevens, 71. Geno Stone, 66. And Justin Madubuike, 56. In terms of interceptions, Geno Stone, 7. Kyle Hamilton, 4. Brandon Stevens, 2. Couple of players with 1 as well. And then sacks, Justin Madubuike, 13. Jadeveon Clowney, 9.5. Kyle Van Noy 9, Odafe Oweh 5, and Patrick Queen 3.5. And then looking at the forced fumbles, Jadeveon Clowney, Justin Madubuike, Odafe Oweh, Kyle Van Noy each had 2, and a couple of other players had 1 apiece. Looking at the extensive list of current free agents on the Baltimore Ravens from the Baltimore Ravens 2023 roster. It is a long one. I'll just quickly name off each of those names. Patrick Queen, Justin Madubuike, Geno Stone, Kevin Zeitler, Odell Beckham, Gus Edwards, Jadeveon Clowney, Kyle Van Noy, Tyler Huntley, John Simpson, Arthur Millette, Rack-Ya-Sin, Ronald Darby, J.K. Dobbins, Josh Johnson, Darryl Worley, Brent Urban, Devin Duvernay, Malik Harrison, Delshon Phillips, Trayvon Mullen, Sam Mustipher, Laquan Treadwell, and Tyler Ott. So definitely a lot of free agents coming off the Baltimore Ravens roster from the 2023 season. It'll be interesting. A lot of those guys, depth chart guys at some of those positions. Definitely, a couple of positions that are, lacking just roster size in general right now. I'll talk about that right after I talk about the coaching status of the Baltimore Ravens. First of all, Director of Player Personnel, Joe Horitz, has accepted a position with the Los Angeles Chargers. Defensive coordinator Mike McDonald has accepted the Seattle Seahawks head coaching job. He's being replaced by Zach Orr, who was formerly our inside linebackers coach. Our inside linebackers coach is now Mark DeLon, who was a University of Kansas football defensive analyst last season. And then our DBs coach, Denard Wilson, he left to become the Tennessee Titans defensive coordinator. He was replaced by Doug Mallory, who was a Michigan analyst last year. And our defensive line coach, Anthony Weaver, went to become the Miami Dolphins defensive coordinator. Our defensive line coach is to be determined, as well as our assistant offensive line coach is to be determined, as Mike Delvin took over in L.A. As the Chargers offensive line coach. So a couple of guys going to the L.A. Chargers with Coach Harbaugh's brother, Harbaugh, who accepted the head coaching position at the L.A. Chargers. My initial thoughts for positional needs for the Baltimore Ravens. These aren't necessarily ranked in order. That would be wide receiver. We got so far on the roster right now, Zay Flowers, Nelson Aguilar, Rashad Bateman, and Tylan Wallace. Obviously, Nelson Aguilar, I already said I support that signing at $3.5 million. Rashad Bateman has shown flashes, but it's been very, very streaky up to this point in his career. He's got to either put up or shut up at this point in his career at this season, or he may not be a Raven after this. Tylan Wallace, solid, not really, hasn't really developed into anything more than like a wide receiver 3, 4, 5 kind of guy, probably closer to 4 or 5. Obviously has the punt returning capability, which is nice as Devin Duvernay is a free agent. We do know Tylan Wallace is fully capable of, completing and fulfilling that role. And then Zay Flowers, obviously spectacular rookie season, great athleticism and vision. I do believe the kid is a true athlete and has potential to be one of the greats at the position. His status, while looking favorable right now in terms of other reports, I don't really want to speak on it too much. Hasn't been charged with anything. For the concept and premise of this episode, I'm imagining Zay Flowers is a Baltimore Raven with no hiccups, anything in the way as of right now, unless things change. That's how I'm going to proceed with that situation. And then cornerback, currently we have Marlon Humphrey and Jalen Armour Davis on the roster that are signed, as well as 3 other corners who hardly played. None of the 3 played in more than 2 games last season. So definitely not ideal there, as well as Marlon Humphrey's name has been one of the few, couple of names that has been tossed around as a cap casualty for the Baltimore Ravens, who are not in, the best position cap-wise heading into the offseason. Marlon could potentially be a restructure or cap hit, potential cap hit and re-sign, but definitely not ideal, only having two corners that have, playing time, serious playing time on the roster as of right now. Then edge, defensive end, outside linebacker type of guy. Right now we have Odafe Owe, who, has played solid. He's missed a little bit of time, but played solid. Not a dominant force as a standalone pass rusher, but played solid. Other than that, we have Tavius Robinson and Trenton Simpson, both rookies last season. Both of them could potentially play on the edge, especially Trenton Simpson out of Clemson. I believe, you'd have to go back and listen to my Ravens draft analysis recap episode. That was like episode 2, I believe. But his snap counts, I think, at Clemson were, about 35-40% at outside linebacker edge position. So he could potentially, help fill in that role. But other than that, Clowney's a free agent. Kyle Van Noy's a free agent. Definitely need a, another replacement either in the draft or free agency, as we head into 2024 season. And then the next one, the fourth one that I have, initial positional need for the Baltimore Ravens is going to be offensive line. Kevin Zeitler, free agent. John Simpson, free agent. Sam Mustipher, free agent. Obviously, Zeitler and Simpson started for the Baltimore Ravens. Mustipher, I believe, started a game or two, in replacement. Played okay, solid backup. Other than that, we have guys, we have younger guys, we have, potentially, is it time to go for Ronnie Stanley? His injuries have continued to bother him. He's almost become a liability at times, and I really, am not confident in his ability to perform at a high level without, allowing pressure on Lamar Jackson and or flags on himself. At this point, potential trade candidate. In my opinion, he has a very high salary for the value and, health, trustworthy. Like, you're paying him that much, he needs to be on the field. He needs to be on the field playing well. He has not been able to do that the past 2 seasons for more than 2 or 3 games at a time. Potentially time to go for him. We do have some younger guys like Salah from the draft last year, and Voorhees, he's been working on rehab from that torn ACL from last year's combine. So we have some younger guys. I do think the offensive line still needs some bolstering, though, especially at the guard position and depth-wise, in case a guy or two goes down. Morgan Moses is getting older in his career. We saw him getting worn down as well a little bit this year. He's still under contract, but, depth is going to be important for the offensive line in protecting Lamar Jackson in the 2024 season. The next, last portion of this episode is going to be the Ravens' current draft picks in the 2024 NFL Draft, starting on April 25th and going through April 27th. We currently hold the first round pick, number 30th overall, as well as round 2, pick 62, round 3, pick 93, round 4, pick 130, round 5, pick 163, in round 7, pick 225, and pick 247. So, 7 picks right there for the Baltimore Ravens. As of right now, in the upcoming NFL Draft, it's pretty much all I have for today's episode. Do tune in. Make sure you press that follow button right here on Spotify. I will be dropping a Ravens Offseason Wishlist. That would be much more in-depth in terms of what I would like to see the Baltimore Ravens do. That episode will either drop Friday or Saturday after I have a little bit more time to dive into it, do a full analysis, as well as scout, potential free agent suitors, potential draft suitors, positional needs, rank them for the Baltimore Ravens this upcoming offseason. Like I said, make sure you press that follow button. That episode is coming soon right here on the Wedge 52 Gridiron. And that's all I have for this episode. Thank you all for listening. Make sure you follow on Twitter and Instagram as well so you guys can stay updated on the Wedge 52 Gridiron. And most importantly, go Ravens.